Fanalysis combines the quantifiable analytics from research created for fantasy football and combines that with the latest betting trends to identify the sharp angles. Lead betting analyst with Pickswise, Jared Smith, is here to talk about this. Jared, I want to first talk about Week 9 because I think that shattered all of our trends. Does the craziness of last week maybe make us change how we grade things, starting with the Jets getting 12 against the Bills?
It shouldn't. And I know your initial reaction is underdogs. I believe the number is 28-1 against the spread over the last 2 weeks. Your initial reaction is, oh, I'm just going to bet every underdog on the board this week and I'm going to win. I think that's, a gambler's fallacy. And I think that's a logic that will lead you down a road that you're not really doing yourself a service. I think the best thing to do, if you were on a lot of favorites the last few weeks, and, admittedly, I certainly was, as a lot of people do, you just continue to go about your process and you continue to grade the teams accordingly. And you don't concern yourself with the extreme volatility and randomness that is gambling on the NFL. There are going to be extreme results. They tend to always get clustered in the same week. And that makes us have that recency bias that, hey, it's going to happen again this week because it happened last week. I wouldn't be shocked if it flipped this week and it was favorites that go 10-4 against the spread. But I think overall, the key is stay consistent and continue to go through your process. Because if you do that over the long haul, 1 week is not going to tell the story. 17 weeks, 20 weeks over the playoffs will tell the story. Continue to repeat your process and you will stay consistent.
I think it's the fact that we have so much media to consume nowadays. When we have these massive upsets, it is amplified even more and it feels bigger than it actually is. But when we take a closer look at what's going to happen here, as we're telling ourselves the story of what's going to happen in this Jets-Bills game, the last 2 weeks, the Jets offense has put up 30 points with backup quarterbacks. Do you see this as a backdoor cover possibility?
I think I think if the Jets played the way that Mike White played before he got hurt, and if the Bills play even remotely close to the level, especially up front, that they played against the Jags, I think the Jets are live here. So when you look at this history of this series, there's been a few Bills blowouts over the recent memory during this Jets, downward trend. But last year, when I would say the Jets maybe were at their lowest point, they kept both of these games relatively close, and they kept them both within the current number of what it is this week. And I did see some movement off of 13.5 down to 12.5. I even saw 11 at one shot after the news of Mike White starting this week broke. And I think what that tells me is the smart money likes the Jets, and they just wanted to confirm that it was White. Once it was confirmed, you saw an immediate move to New York. To me, that means I'm on the right side of the market. Does that mean that the Jets are going to cover? We'll see what happens when they kick the ball in the air. But I feel like the Jets, to me, getting almost 2 touchdowns is a good play against the Bills team that might be still a Super Bowl contender, but they're going through some midseason turmoil. They've got some injuries on the offensive line. I think this Jets team's playing with some confidence for sure. And I'm on the Mike White bandwagon. I'm a Jets fan, Steve. I want to see this kid play well.
Let Mike cook. Let Mike cook. Because when Mike cooks, everybody eats. You are right, though. I mean, this Bills line is an absolute disaster. But if you want to parse this out and what the Jets are doing, the Jets D-line has absolutely fallen off a cliff. Here's a note that I found here. Over the past 3 weeks, they've only had 23 combined pressures out of 470 snaps. That is the lowest rate in the NFL. So their D-line isn't getting to the quarterback. When you think that this offensive line of the Bills is easy to get to, the Jets just aren't making it home right now.
No, and I'll give the Colts credit last Thursday. I think if you asked me the 2 best offensive lines in the league, maybe 3 best, I'd put Cleveland, Indy, and Dallas on that list. And, the Jets have had to face Indy, and I think you saw just how good that Colts offensive line can be, opening holes for Jonathan Taylor. We haven't seen Buffalo open those kinds of holes for the running game. And you're right. We've seen this Buffalo offensive line kind of struggle a little bit to protect Josh Allen. So if there was an offensive line that Robert Saleh, who, by the way, is known for his defense, even though maybe it hasn't really presented itself this season, I think over time you will see the Jets defense, I hope, improve. This is a week for that defense to kind of, bully some people up front. I like the way Quinnen Williams is playing. I certainly think there's some positives along that Jets defensive line. We just haven't seen them put it together for a full 60 minutes. Maybe this is the week they'll have an opportunity against the Bills team that certainly gives up a lot of pressure up front.
All right, now the moment that everybody's been waiting for, because you are the teaser champion, I feel like, of the NFL. Your teaser of the week. First game, the Saints and the Titans game. The current line, 2.5. You'd like to move that line in favor of the Saints, and you'd also like that Browns-Patriots game. The Browns are 2-point dogs, and you're moving that line to 8. So what are you seeing in these games?
Yeah, let's start with the Browns. First of all, both of these games, as you know, and this isn't a hard and fast rule, but it's a rule that I try to subscribe when I'm giving out my best teaser. I think there's some other good teaser spots on the board this week, but the reason that these two are the best is because the totals are lower. So that means that 6 points that we're moving the line is worth more against the total number of points prescribed for the game compared to, let's say, a Vegas Kansas City game that's a 51, 52, 53 total game. So you get two low total games in the mid 40s, and you get a Cleveland team that, listen, say what you want about the Browns running game, and I know there's some COVID issues with Chubb and some other guys in that running back room, but if you were going to ask me which team has better players this season, which team has the deeper roster, I don't think there's any doubt it's the Cleveland Browns. And now I get to move this line through those two key numbers of 3 and 7. And all Cleveland has to do is keep this game within a touchdown. I feel very confident that they can control tempo with, again, that really good offensive line, one of the best in football. For the Saints, this is a trap game. I'd be willing to bet the Saints on the money line and on the spread without even teasing it, because when you look at Mike Vrabel, this is when I found this nugget last night, Steve, I screamed. I was like, Steve's going to love this nugget when I share it on the show. So Mike Vrabel, as a favorite, under 500 against the spread, 14 and 17. As an underdog, 17 and 9. And that speaks to the culture and the passion of who the Titans are. They're a tough team that likes to be doubted with that chip on their shoulder. Well, they're coming off the win against the Rams, and now everyone thinks they're going to win this game against the Saints. I think it's kind of on the other side, where New Orleans, really good coming off the loss. They're 2-0 straight up and against the spread after a loss this year, 22 and 10 against the number after a loss with Sean Payton as head coach since 2015. So it's that zigzag approach. Tennessee let down off the win. New Orleans bounce back off the loss. And again, we don't need the Saints to cover. We just need them to not lose by more than 8. I feel very good about New Orleans.
And that actually works for Cleveland as well. Can you imagine Odell Beckham Jr. with all of the talent around him? He wanted to get out of there because it wasn't strong enough. This could be a Browns week there. We could be seeing addition by subtraction after losing Odell. That is his teaser of the week. Make sure you check out his best plays against the spread on our other segment. For Jared Smith and Pickswise, I'm Steve Overmyer. This is Fanalysis.